Hello, and thank you for joining me on Self-Indulgent Sunday. A single person asked me why I love the LOBO Mustang over other lever-action rifles, and I thought it was a perfect excuse to bring some of my favorites out, put them on parade, and fondle them for you. So what we have is the Umrex Legends Cowboy Rifle, the Umrex Walther Lever Action Rifle, and the LOBO Mustang. Now, I'll go over some of the specs, just comparing them, and then I'll shoot a little bit, and if you come out with a different favorite after this, awesome, that's how it's supposed to work. So starting at the back, this is not real wood, it's actually plastic. Now that's fine by me because that just means it's going to scratch less. That said, it is nice to have real wood, like on this one, and it's shaped on both sides, which means it's ambidextrous. And this is real wood too, and it's just slightly thinner, which means it's easier to bring up into your arms, into your shoulder, yeah. Going on to lever action, this one requires a little bit of effort because it actually does work. This one is pretty easy going. And this one almost requires zero effort, except for if you put an oversized pellet in the magazine and it actually needs to, it struggles a little bit to put the pellet in the rifle on the back cock. Now that's the difference with this, is this one actually pushes the pellet into the barrel. This simply blows from the magazine into the barrel. And this one, well, the upside and the downside to this rifle is these go all over the place. Anyway, this is primarily a BB rifle, BB gun. It is a smoothbore, not rifled barrel. It's supposed to shoot 4.5mm steel bearings. However, you can actually put pellets in like I have on this one, and it's pretty damn accurate with them. Now, you put your pellet or your bearing in, and then you slide it in, and then that catch takes a little bit of your fingernail off, you bleed a little bit, the gun gets a taste of human blood, and we had to go put it down, I'm sorry. But it's loads of fun. However, if you're just doing some target practice or some plinking, and then every time you eject, it gets old trying to like pick those up off the floor and reload them. So it's fun when you're in the mood, less fun when you just want to do some target practice. Something worth mentioning is, I guess you won't be able to see it on this, but either from them sitting like this, stacked in the cylinder chamber, or when you actually slide it through the loading port, or when they eject, these rubber gaskets get some damage over time. They wear out a little, and while I've shot quite a few shots through this before, I've actually noticed some difference. Know that these probably will wear out and you will need to buy some spares. Fortunately, they're cheap enough-ish, so that's fine. As for this one, this is a 4.5mm or 0.177 BB pellet, and it takes a normal Umrex 8-shot magazine. Just load your pellets in there, and it has a rifled barrel. No BBs, I misspoke. So that's pretty easy going. As for this one, this is 0.22 or 5.5mm, and to load the pellets in, you take out this magazine, which they have their custom version. However, yeah, I found that the Artemis magazines are compatible. So rifled barrel is at the bottom, and as you'll notice that this gun is cocked and this gun is cocked. That's never a good situation to be in. To decock this gun, you hold onto the lever, you pull the trigger, and you bring it back, and now this is safe. As for this one, this has two safeties. There's a switch up here, and then there's one that you have to push the lever in every single shot, otherwise it won't fire. So what you do is you push it in, you hold onto the hammer, you pull the trigger, and you lead it forwards, and there, it's safe. Now, the sights, I don't know much about guns at all, but I imagine that this is slightly more faithful to the open sights of the original, while these are slightly updated versions. And this has no sights whatsoever, so you'd have to put your own scope on this dovetail rail. Now, moving to the front, there's no way to put a silencer on this one. However, I am scheming up something that may let you. However, it is pretty damn loud. This one comes with a third-party adapter, which works really well. And when silenced, it has a comforting sound. It's almost like smashing your head really hard into a pillow. That's quite a comforting sound. And this one comes with a built-in UNF20 half-inch thread at the front, so just put a silencer on. And without a silencer, it's incredibly loud. But with a silencer, it's indoor friendly. If power is important to you, this is advertised as less than 7.5 joules. This one is advertised as 7.5 joules itself. And this, if you just buy it in a country where you're allowed or you have a license, it's 24 joules. However, there's a 10 joule limit where I live, so this is in 10 joules. Now, powering these. This takes two 12-gram CO2 cartridges, and you'll get about 60 good shots from it. This one takes an 88-gram CO2 cylinder, and you get over 100 shots with it. This is PCP, so it has an air chamber at the top here, and I've got 60 good shots with it, between 100 and 300 bar. So this is perfect for me. So, justification time. If this was PCP, this would be my favorite all-time gun, and if it was a rifle barrel. If this was PCP, it would really be right up there as a contender. I really, really like this gun, but I hate the waste of these CO2 cartridges. And if, let's pretend, a plague were to arrive in the world sometime, getting these may prove pretty difficult. And just pumping this up, yeah, it helps me get thinner, so I eat more cake, and it's not that big a deal. Air is free for now. So PCP, I love. Rifle barrel, I love. Silencer adapter already, I love. The fact that there's a barrel underneath the air cylinder makes it slightly unique, and I love that. Just the squareness of everything, I kind of like that. The fact that it's very easy to put a scope on, because on this one you actually need an adapter which goes up and then over. This is all I wanted, really. It's everything I was looking for. So yeah, if these were just slightly different, they'd be it. But for me, this is my favorite. Now, onto some shooting. Okay, so how about some calibration? A rifle that I can shoot with scopes and with open sights. This is going to be a bit silly. So I'm going to use the Daisy 880 because it's pretty accurate for me. And I'm going to mount the world's most ridiculous scope on it. Tell me if you've seen this story before. Anyway, so I have the scope, which is multiples more expensive than the Daisy 880, which is less than what, $60 in the US or something. And I'm going to give it a few shots and see what kind of groups I get with the scope. Then I'll take the scope off and see what happens. So let's go. Alright, not a bad grouping. I made one or two mistakes, but final shot, let's see. Okay, so now I'm going to try with the 880 with open sights. Quite a disadvantage is that the ridiculous silencer I have on really covers up quite a bit. But we'll see what we can do. Okay, so the final shot now, and amusingly, the problem I'm having is that it's hitting exactly where I'm aiming, so the holes are making it harder and harder to actually accurately aim. But here we go. Alright, I can see it's a bit of a larger group, but yeah, let's go see. Okay, so I'm not going to pretend that these are the same picture and that the groups are the same size, but with iron sights and my poor eyesight, it's not horrendously bad. It's still less than an inch. So I don't think it's that unfair to compare the scoped version of the Mustang with the iron sights of the other two rifles. But yeah, let's see how we get on. Alright, let's give the Walther Lever Action a go. Alright, the LOBO Mustang now, and we'll give it 8 shots. I've got to be careful though, because the trigger is quite a lot lighter than the other guns, so some of these may get away from me. Let's see. Right, I think that's 8. Let's go check it out. Alright, so before I go through the summary and some things I forgot, in the beginning I'll be showing the prices for these in euros. That's because I could only find this in euros, not dollars, so it's not a fair comparison. So I went to some German sites and just, yeah, that's the deal. However, I must mention that I'm living in crazy land, and this costs the equivalent of $400, and this is just slightly over $400. Now, there's no way I'd ever pay that for this because, you know, it's just not insane. So I bought this second hand, and I just imported that from a German shop for significantly less. Now, why do I mention this? This being second hand, I didn't know what condition it would be in and how long it would last. I've shot this many, many times because it's nice and quiet. And those even mildly aware of their surroundings will realize, gee, Dirk, why was there no video of this being shot? Well, I'm glad you didn't ask. You see, I put the CO2 cartridges in the back, and as I was turning them, and I heard the nice pop in the hiss continued spraying out here, which is where my fingers were. So I got a mild bit of frostbite from this leaking, so the gun's broken. And that's not great news, especially seeing as I've only shot this for weekends, because this is quite a loud gun. So I shot, I think, 350, 400 pellets through it, but I've only used it 4 times and it's broken already. So that's great. The thing is, I did have dreams of one day learning how these mechanics work and maybe converting this to a PCP somehow, but I was scared of breaking it. So thanks Umarex for the push to learning. That's really great. Now, the shooting results, I tried using the same pellets in 4.5 and 5.5 just for apples versus lead oranges. Now, the Walther Lever may look slightly less accurate than the Mustang, but I mean, the scope's involved, and I did previously attach a scope to this through methods I will not tell anyone, and I got more or less the same group, so these are roughly as accurate as each other. The one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning is I'm an aesthetics guy as well as the mechanical guy. I love the mechanics, but I love the way guns look. I mean, don't we all? But like, even the tiny things like this sticking out just really bugs me, and I love the fact that the UNF is actually flat on the front and the whole gun is just square like my personality. It just fits me well. So yeah, I hope you got something from this, and if nothing else, you saw that the Daisy 880, which costs a fraction of the price of these guns, is incredibly accurate, and with the stupid 3D printed silencer I made, it's really quiet. So yeah, stay safe, hope you had fun, bye.